So one night, this woman drives out to the middle of nowhere to meet up with her fiancé, when suddenly someone comes up behind her and they put a pew-pew to the back of her head and they pull the trigger. So the woman's name is Molly, and Molly is very sweet. She's on the spectrum, she likes to vlog on YouTube.
Hi guys!
And Molly really wants to get married. So one day she gets a new job at a local prison as a corrections officer. And there she meets this guy, Jim. And Jim is also a corrections officer. And Molly thinks Jim is fine. So Molly and Jim become work friends, then things get romantic. Here's the thing though, Jim is technically already married to this woman, who we'll call Jane Doe. But Jim and Jane Doe are separated. They're in the process of getting a divorce. They're just waiting for the divorce to be finalized. No big deal, Molly and Jim officially start dating anyway. And things are going great. They're together all the time, going on vacations to Disney World and Mexico. She introduces Jim to her family. Her family doesn't really like Jim, but whatever, they're in love. And then, finally, after Molly's been dating Jim for 7 years, Jim's divorce gets finalized. And Molly sees this as her opportunity. I mean, she wants to be with Jim. She wants to get married. She wants to move in with him like they're not even living together. So she goes out and proposes to him. And he says yes, and boom, they start planning the wedding. And she's excited, like she's finally gonna get married. They get a wedding planner, they send out invitations. Then, a few weeks before the wedding, something terrible happens. Jim's ex-wife, Jane Doe, she gets into a horrible car accident. And it's bad. This accident is so bad, she gets put on life support. And Jim, he comes to Molly and he says, hey, we need to reduce the guest list at the wedding because most of his family is going to be in the hospital trying to support Jane Doe. And Molly, she's a good person, so she's like, yeah, that's fine. And then, shortly after, Jane Doe's in the hospital, she's still on life support, and Jim and his family decide to pull the plug. And sadly, Jane Doe passes away. So then Jim, he feels like he may have to call off the wedding because his family is really torn up about his ex passing away. Now, despite how bad Molly wants to get married, she totally understands. Now, remember how I said Molly's family doesn't like Jim? Well, Molly's brother, this guy, who thinks Jim is an absolute turd, he goes to Molly and he's like, are you sure Jane Doe is Jim's ex-wife? Because I can't find any record of Jim being divorced from her. Now, Molly, she dismisses this, but it starts to put doubt in her head. Then, fast forward to the week of their wedding, and Jim and Molly go to get their marriage license, and the county clerk asks them if Jim's ever been married before, how did his last marriage end, like standard stuff. And Jim starts acting weird, like really evasive. And so this puts even more doubt in Molly's head. And so Molly, she goes home and she starts Googling around, searching for Jane Doe's obituary. And I assume at this point she's asking Jim all kinds of questions about his previous marriage, because she's getting real suspicious. But then, 2 days before the wedding, Jim asks Molly to meet up with him one night. And the spot he wants to meet in is on a back road. It's kind of in the middle of nowhere. But whatever, he's her fiancé, so of course she goes and meets him there. So they're out there, and at some point, Jim gets Molly to look in the opposite direction, away from him. And this is when Jim quietly pulls out his pew-pew, and he points it at the back of her head, and he pulls the trigger. And unfortunately, Molly doesn't survive. And Jim, immediately, he leaves the scene, and he leaves Molly's body, and he goes home. Later, a guy driving by, he sees Molly's car and her body, and he calls the police. So police show up, and they find Molly there, on the ground, her engagement ring is still on her hand, and her marriage certificate is still in the front seat of her car. Now, her marriage certificate has her name on it, so police can immediately identify who she is. You know who else's name is on that marriage certificate? Jim's. So police go to Jim's house, because they got to inform him that his fiancée passed away. They get there, and they knock, and Jim answers the door. But guess who else answers the door? Jane Doe. She's not dead, she's not in a coma, she was never in a coma, never in a car accident or on life support. Jim made that all up. Not only that, she and Jim had never divorced. They had never separated. They had never even talked about getting a divorce. As far as she knows, she and Jim have been happily married for the last 23 years. That's how long they've been married. Jim has been living a double life. Married to Jane Doe, secretly dating Molly, while telling Molly that Jane Doe is dead. Then, allegedly, when Molly got too close to finding the truth, Jim lured her out to the middle of nowhere and he unalived her. So ultimately, Jim is arrested, here's his mugshot, he goes to trial, he's found guilty of first-degree murder, and he's sentenced to life. And pretty quickly, Jane Doe divorced him. Good for her. And all this happened in misery, so shout out to misery. One day, this woman posts on her Facebook page that her daughter's sick, that she has severe aplastic anemia, and it's really bad. Daughter might not survive. Now the woman, let's call her Spam. And Spam is full of shit. Her daughter isn't really sick, Spam's just trying to con people. Now the daughter, we'll just call Daughter. And one day, Spam posts about daughter's aplastic anemia on her Facebook page. And people see the post, and immediately love and support start pouring in. So Spam's con works. In fact, it works so well that she sets up an entire separate Facebook page just dedicated to Daughter's illness. And people follow it. They want to keep updated with Daughter's journey. So Spam continues this, and she keeps getting all this love and support from people. But I guess it's not enough, because as time moves on, she starts telling people that more and more things are wrong with Daughter. Suddenly, Suddenly she's saying daughter has leukemia, and she's posting photos of daughter in the hospital receiving treatment. She tells people that daughter's gone blind in her right eye, that she has seizures, that she has a tumor in her ear that's causing her a lot of pain. All kinds of stuff. Like at some point, it feels like daughter has like every illness. And people are just eating it up. Like, oh, this poor little girl. And Spam isn't playing around with this con. She's going all out. She allegedly starts falsifying medical documents. She makes daughter take seizure medication she doesn't need. Spam even starts shaving daughter's head to really sell that she's undergoing chemo for the leukemia. She takes daughter to the hospital. She takes pictures of her there getting tested for stuff, and she starts posting those pictures on the Facebook page. Now, we've heard stories like this before, so you already know that no cancer scam is complete without money. So at some point in all this, Spam starts asking people for donations to help pay for daughter's treatment. And people come out of the woodwork to donate. They're giving her money, they're holding fundraisers. One local charity that helps fight cancer donates $8,000. I mean, from what I can tell, this con really seems to be paying off. Until one day, it's a normal day. Daughter's like 7 at this point. She's at school, and the school nurse is doing eye exams for all the students. And the nurse checks daughter, who's supposed to be blind in her right eye because that's what Spam told everyone. And that is when nurse notices she's not. And nurse is like, okay, that's weird. Is this child even sick at all? So nurse calls daughter's doctor, and the doctor says, no, there's no record of her having leukemia or anything like that. And it's crazy because the medical documents that Pam had given the school, the ones that say that daughter is sick, were all completely fabricated. So at this point, nurse is like, yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and call the police. So she does, and she reports Pam. 4 days later, police brings Pam in and they question her. And poor Pam, she is not ready for this. She doesn't last long before she cracks and confesses everything. Throughout daughter's 7 years on this planet, Spam has been completely fabricating her illnesses for attention and money. But that's not even the weirdest part. Here's the weirdest part. Daughter isn't even Spam's kid. Daughter's actual mother is named Shadow. And Shadow had daughter like 7 years ago, and she was an addict, so she couldn't take care of her. So while Shadow works on getting clean, she asks her best friend Spam to take care of daughter. And Spam's like, sure, I'll take care of her, and Shadow signs her over to her. Once Spam got custody of daughter at about 1.5 years old, she starts doing this whole fake illness scam. So anyway, police arrest Spam, here's her mugshot, and they charge her with theft by deception for taking all that donation money, and she's currently in jail waiting on her trial. Meanwhile, Shadow is clean now, and she's working to get custody of daughter. Good luck to all of them. Shout out to Ohio. So this woman will do anything to get away from her crazy, controlling parents. Let's call her Doppel. And Doppel's 23, she's a beauty blogger, she lives at home with her parents, and they are super religious, and because of that, they apparently dominate Doppel's life. And one day, Doppel and her parents get in a huge fight, and they supposedly fight all the time, and it's getting old. And she hates them, and she wants nothing more than to get away from them. So Doppel and her boyfriend, who we'll just call boyfriend, they come up with a plan. She'll just fake her own death. She'll find a lookalike, get her to meet up, she'll unalive the lookalike, and then put the body in her car so that everyone believes it's her. And most importantly, she'll not get caught. It's the perfect plan. So first she needs to find a woman who looks like her to die in her place. So she gets on Instagram and she starts looking for women that are about her age and have the same features. And after evaluating several different ladies, she sets her target on this woman, Khadija. Khadija is also 23 and also a beauty blogger. She's got the same hair, the same build. In fact, these two women look so much alike, for the purpose of the rest of this story, I'm gonna make Khadija black. Otherwise, we won't be able to tell them apart and the story will get very confusing. So Doppel has found her mark, Khadija. Step 1 is done. Now she needs to get her to agree to meet up. So Doppel gets this idea. She creates a fake Instagram account and pretends to be a famous German singer. Then she DMs Khadija and tells her that she wants her to star in her new music video. But Khadija's not stupid. She doesn't fall for that. So Doppel tries again. She makes another fake Instagram account. And this time she uses it to reach out to Khadija and says she's with a company and they want to give her free beauty products in exchange for promoting them on her Instagram. And Khadija's a beauty influencer, so she's like, hell yeah! And she falls for this one. So with this fake account, Doppel convinces Khadija to meet her in Ingolstadt for a free treatment at a beauty salon. And they'll even send a car to pick her up. And of course, Khadija's like, that sounds great. So she's gonna meet up. Step 2 is done. Then, sometime after she agrees to meet, Doppel's car pulls up in front of Khadija's apartment. And they're gonna pick her up and they're gonna take her to this salon. And of course, Doppel and boyfriend are driving that car. Once Khadija's in the car, they drive her to a forest outside the city. And then they have her get out. Now, they're supposed to be at a salon. So I don't know what they told Khadija when they just suddenly pulled up to a forest. But anyway, they have her get out